Hi, it's Katrina. What if our ancient ancestors were more advanced than we know? In desolate caves, discoveries have been made that some claim are not of this world. Carved into Egyptian temple walls, we see what look like modern aircraft, and ancient civilizations mapped the cosmos with a precision that defies explanation. Were these the achievements of early humans alone, or did they have some help? Are we looking at evidence of a forgotten advanced technology? Let's go explore. A flying saucer in a desert cave. In the sun-blasted chaos of Afghanistan's desert mountains, where goats outnumber people and Wi-Fi is just a dream, a story emerged in 2012 that made ancient alien theorists say, "Told you so." Let me tell you the story and then let me know what you think. Inside the dark cavity of an uncharted cave was a Vimana. This might not sound that crazy unless you really understand what a Vimana is. A Vimana is a mythological flying chariot or a palace from Hindu, Jain, and Sanskrit texts. These sacred vehicles could even be aircraft. They would take to the skies if you knew the right incantations. Someone discovered a 5,000-year-old flying machine ripped straight out of ancient Sanskrit texts hiding in a cave. But is it true? Or is this another one of the internet's tall tales? The story goes like this. 8 U.S. soldiers deployed on what started as a routine operation stumbled upon an aircraft that ancient Indian texts describe as a multi-wheeled, missile-blasting, light-shooting death chariot of the skies, a Vimana. For centuries, scholars have argued over whether they existed or not. These vehicles were piloted by the gods, who could use them to fly through the air, glide underwater, or zip off into space. The way they're described in ancient texts makes them sound like flying saucers. After the US soldiers found the Vimana, they vanished. Contact was lost, and the military got all kinds of freaked out. A rescue team was immediately sent into the cave. When they eventually found the troops, it wasn't an alien abduction that had caused the radio silence. It was exhaustion. Apparently, they'd all passed out. You know, like anyone would after discovering ancient techno-magic in a hot cave. But here's where it gets even weirder. The flying machine, according to quiet whispers and very sketchy PDFs online, couldn't be removed. Not because it was too heavy, not because it was cursed, but because it was surrounded by some kind of energy barrier that kept it locked in space-time, like a sci-fi force field. If you don't believe this story, that's okay. I understand it's outrageous and might not be true, but people have been talking about these Vimanas for thousands of years. Would it be that surprising to finally find one? Military brass started whispering about a time well, a pocket in the cave that messed with physics and time. No one can figure it out, and soon word reached the president at the time, Barack Obama. When you find an ancient UFO trapped in a temporal force bubble, you call your boss. And that's where the story ends. There is no information on whether the vehicle was removed or, if it was removed, where it was taken. Some suspect the United States destroyed the cave, trapping the vehicle inside the mountain forever. In any case, if this did happen, it would probably be top secret. But why are people so obsessed with these Vimanas? Because it could be proof of advanced ancient technology. The Sanskrit word for Vimana means traversing. It is some type of seat or throne or even palace that could move you through the air. Indian texts like the Mahabharata from the 3rd century BC say that Vimana were essentially flying chariots, outfitted with something called a circular reflector. It could shoot out a beam of light capable of vaporizing targets. In the Ramayana from the 5th century BC, the Vimana resembled a bright cloud in the sky, and the god Rama got in and the chariot rose up into the higher atmosphere. Fast forward a little, famous ruler King Ashoka from the 3rd century BC unified much of India, creating a large empire. He carved many inscriptions and edicts into pillars, rocks, and cave walls across the empire. In Edict 4, he states there was a grand celebration where he showed the people aerial chariots, along with elephants, masses of fire, and other divine figures. But what did he mean by aerial chariots? What were they making 2,000 years ago that could fly? Was this all symbolic or metaphorical, or did the people of ancient India have something that we could interpret as flying machines? When it comes to how Vimana were powered, the texts are frustratingly vague, but theories range from solar energy and mercury vortex engines to anti-gravity systems. On an episode of Ancient Aliens on the History Channel, aerospace engineer Travis Taylor made a model of an aircraft with design specifications taken from the ancient Indian texts. The guys put it into a wind tunnel to see if it could be a viable flying machine. They tested it with an airflow of about 50 miles an hour to see if this object would move upwards, as if taking off. The results? They did get some lift like an aircraft. The shape the Ancient Aliens team gave the engineer would have been flight-worthy. Ancient alien enthusiasts argue that these flying machines that were used by the gods were advanced technology used by aliens. Ancient people didn't quite understand how to interpret what they were seeing, and so they described it in the best way they could. If we study ancient Indian texts more closely, we might be able to recreate advanced technology that existed thousands of years ago that has since been lost. Do you think we can find hidden details for advanced spacecraft? Let me know your thoughts on all of this. Before we continue, I wanted to give a big thank you to Fume for sponsoring today's video. We've all got bad habits, and some of you are reaching for them right now while you're watching this video. I see you. Fume is flavored air that can help you break bad habits. Have you heard that the flavored air category is quickly becoming the leading alternative to vaping and smoking? Fume is a flavored air device that is perfect for anyone who's looking to break away from bad habits, or if you just want something fun to fidget with. Fume has no vapor, no nicotine, just natural flavor that goes into your mouth and not into your lungs. There are no batteries, no charging, you can just grab it and go. Plus, there are lots of delicious flavors to choose from, like crisp mint and orange vanilla. And if you're feeling fidgety, Fume has magnetic snaps, clicks, and an adjustable airflow dial, so it can also help you relieve stress or stay focused without poisoning yourself. It's sleek and feels premium in your hand. It's so easy to take anywhere, whether you're at work, traveling, or just relaxing at home. I know that stopping a bad habit cold turkey is hard. When my cousin quit her bad habit, she switched to sunflower seeds to replace that fixation. And let me tell you, that was not fun to be around. Sunflower seeds and spit everywhere. That's where Fume comes in. It's not about quitting, it's about replacing. Fume offers a simple and enjoyable way to break away from bad habits while still having something satisfying to reach for. And it tastes good. Over 500,000 people have already made the switch to Fume as part of their habit-changing journey. If you're ready to try it for yourself, now's the time. For a limited time, if you order the Journey Pack using my code ORIGINS, you'll get a free Fume topper, which is an awesome accessory to level up your experience. Click the link tryfume.com/origins or scan the QR code on the screen to get yours today. How did Noah build the ark? Ever wonder how Noah built his ark? Obviously with wood, but what tools did he use? What technology did he have available at the time? Forget the typical version of Noah, the one where he's a kindly old man with a long beard and zero lumbar support, chipping away at logs with a dull axe while goats bleat in the background. That version couldn't build a birdhouse, let alone a 500-foot-long floating zoo. The real Noah was more like an engineer with 500 years of experience, thanks to his ridiculously long lifespan. He also may have had access to pre-Babel technology. Noah lived before the Renaissance, the Romans, the Greeks, and even the Egyptians. According to Genesis 4:22, people like Tubal-Cain were already forging instruments of bronze and iron. That means that metalwork was already in the game. If Tubal-Cain was firing up furnaces and hammering out alloys, then Noah probably had access to metal tools, piping, saws, chisels, drills, and maybe even a crank and pulley system. Ancient civilizations like Egypt, China, and India popped up shortly after the flood and demonstrated wild levels of technological prowess. Some say that's no coincidence. Some say these cultures inherited scraps of pre-flood tech, which means that Noah had all the tools he needed. But what would he have needed? From a technical perspective, exactly what tools are required for building an ark? First and foremost are timber processing tools. To build this big of a boat, Noah would have needed water-powered saws, heavy chisels, hand drills, and quality axes. He would have needed real metal tools, not weak copper scrapers. And then there's the issue of food. Feeding your family and all of those animals would take quite a bit of logistics. It's not like all those animals could drink seawater and just survive. The Ark was BYOB, or bring your own bread. Noah would have needed a way to mill flour with stone grinders and store nuts, grain, and oil for the trip. Plus, didn't the animals try to eat each other? He also needed hinges, spikes, nails, and rivets, which means he needed a forge with extreme heat to make the bits and pieces from iron. Plus, he needed to cook pitch to seal the Ark and make it waterproof, unless he wanted his floating zoo to become Atlantis 2.0. So Noah needed tools, equipment, food, and pitch to seal the boards. But he also needed a way to lift timbers that weighed as much as elephants into place. Now, the Egyptians lifted 330-ton obelisks using pulleys, ropes, and an army of workers. Greeks, Chinese, and Romans had entire crane systems. Lifting things in the ancient world was doable, but it took a ton of manpower. In 1586, it took 900 men and 74 horses to move one obelisk into place in Rome's St. Peter's Square. How did Noah pull it off alone? Biblical scholars say he used levers, pulleys, winches, and rope made from grasses or papyrus. But I think it's more likely that he hired help, possibly even giant help. Remember that in Noah's world, the Nephilim were still around, the so-called men of renown. They were giants looming over 20 feet tall if Christian texts are to be believed. Maybe the giants helped Noah out, not realizing that he was getting ready for their extinction. How do you think Noah built his ark? And now for a quick break, but first I want to give a big shout out and thank you to Alicia Oflu and Douglas Rose for supporting this channel. We wouldn't be here without you guys. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more videos like this one. Discovering Planet 9. Somewhere out beyond Pluto in the cold, dark reaches of space where no one can hear you scream, scientists think something big is lurking. There might be a hidden icy giant with a 20,000-year orbit hovering just out of sight. It's known as Planet 9. And the strange thing is this: how did the Sumerians 5,000 years ago discover a planet that modern astronomers are still second-guessing? Some say it's because the Sumerians had better technology than us. To be fair, no one's technically found Planet 9. In 2015, it was potentially discovered mathematically by Professor Michael Brown at Caltech. It's invisible to the naked eye because it's so far, and no telescope can find it. But Michael identified what might be Planet 9's gravitational fingerprints. Michael noticed that objects in the Kuiper Belt, a huge belt of floating space stuff, behave as if they are being herded by an invisible shepherd with major mass. The objects seem to be manipulated by a large planet's gravity. The math suggests something huge is interfering with the objects, but no one can see the dang thing. The really confusing part is that the Sumerians of ancient Mesopotamia also knew of a distant planet with a giant looping orbit. They wrote about Planet 9 at the edge of the solar system and claimed that was where their gods came from. In Sumerian mythology, the gods came from another planet called Nibiru that was in a state of catastrophe. They came to Earth to save themselves, mine precious metals, and try to revive their home planet. Some conspiracy theorists believe that the ancient Sumerians knew of this planet and traced its path along the skies. Both Planet 9 and Nibiru are said to follow an elliptical orbit, but this planet is so far away it's invisible to the naked eye. And as far as we know, the Sumerians didn't have telescopes. So how would they have known about this planet at all, let alone track its movements? Scientists say that even if Planet 9 is real, it's almost certainly an ice planet with no habitable atmosphere. If it is there, it probably doesn't have intelligent life. And oddly enough, that fits in with the Sumerian narrative. Perhaps Planet 9 was habitable once, but now it's stuck at the far edge of the solar system. Professor Brown says it's an icy world similar to Neptune, but the only way the Sumerians would have known about it would be if aliens came down and told them. Brown says that every time he finds something new in the outer system, everyone always tells him he must have found Nibiru. The Karnak Temple. On the east bank of the Nile, just across from the silent tombs of pharaohs and the eternal stare of Thebes' ghostly skyline, rises a forest of stone so colossal, so mind-meltingly vast that even modern architects are in total awe. This is Karnak, a temple complex so massive it makes the Vatican look like a little cottage. I mean, not quite, but you get the point. But don't let the word temple fool you. Karnak wasn't just one building, or even 10. It was an entire spiritual superstructure, a multi-deity megachurch built over a period of 2,000 years by pharaoh after pharaoh. Each new king added their own divine upgrades like they were playing an eternal game of Minecraft. And it still stands today. Karnak is the picture-perfect example of what the Egyptians could do with their technology. This place, just the scale of it alone, is more impressive than even the pyramids. I mean, some people say that. Construction began around 2055 BC. By the time everything was wrapped up, Karnak was the size of a small city. The main precinct, dedicated to Amun-Re, was basically the Disneyland of divinity. Karnak also had temples for the sky goddess Mut, the moon god Khonsu, the craftsman deity Ptah, and the god of war Montu. Plus a whole district for priests and sacred festivals that would have made Mardi Gras look like an employee Christmas party. The crown jewel, though? That would be the Avenue of the Sphinxes. Connecting Karnak to Luxor Temple is a roughly 1-mile-long runway of Sphinx statues. Only a few of them are still standing today, but it's enough to get a rough idea of how long the avenue was. A whole mile flanked by stony-eyed sphinxes. During the Opet festival, the pharaoh would spiritually marry the god Amun and travel along the avenue in a great procession. Egypt reopened the Avenue of the Sphinxes in 2021 with a grand modern-day parade. So if you haven't been to Egypt lately, it might be time for a return trip. And take me with you. And also remember to go to the Grand Egyptian Museum, which is now mostly open. You know, since you'll most likely stop in Cairo. Anywho, I digress. Karnak happens to be home to the largest religious room on Earth. It's called Hypostyle Hall, and it's over 54,000 square feet. The hall is crammed with 134 massive sandstone columns, each one thicker than a tour bus and taller than your average apartment building. Originally, the columns were painted in brilliant reds, blues, and golds, a kaleidoscope ceiling designed to resemble the heavens. The mad architect behind this thing was Seti I, and the work was later continued by Ramses II. They made sure the funds were there to complete the greatest religious room ever, bigger than anything found in the Christian world. Even if the Egyptians didn't have super advanced technology, can we admit that Karnak was one of the most ambitious building projects in human history, especially given the technology they did have? It's also home to the towering obelisk of Hatshepsut, a 100-foot-tall granite spike raised by Egypt's toughest female pharaoh, and she allegedly did it in just 7 months, a construction timeline that would make any modern contractor sweat. Hatshepsut's twin obelisk now stands in Rome, thanks to Emperor Constantine's ancient tourist impulse. Karnak itself has been raided, eroded, and looted throughout the eons, but it's still standing. That alone makes it more durable than your last iPhone. But no epic site is complete without a little conspiracy, right? Besides the incredible construction, this place is home to some mysterious helicopter hieroglyphs. You've probably seen them floating around online. Found in the Amun-Re Temple, these carvings supposedly show what look like different kinds of modern aircraft. There are hieroglyphs that look like helicopters, jets, and something that could double as a stealth bomber, or a giant stapler. It depends on your imagination. Some believe these are proof of extraterrestrial influence, that ancient Egypt was the destination of choice for space tourists. Some even suspect that Karnak, with its enormous rooms, epic avenues, and spaces wide enough for a mothership to land, was a staging point for aliens visiting Earth. They docked and left their ships to be refueled by some mysterious power source. And then, when they were done, they flew back to wherever they came from. Egyptologists, however, claimed the helicopter, jet, and stealth bomber carvings at Karnak were not all done at the same time. It was actually a case of hieroglyphic superimposition, which means that one pharaoh carved some hieroglyphs and then another pharaoh later carved on top of them. The experts say this superimposition created weird hieroglyphs that just so happened to resemble modern vehicles. But not everyone is so quick to close the case. Brian Forrester, rogue historian and master of the what-if school of thought, said that precision-cut drill holes and other engineering anomalies at Karnak couldn't have been made with copper tools and elbow grease alone. It's not just about the hieroglyphs. Brian has argued that the level of detail at Karnak hints at laser levels, CNC routers, and all kinds of modern tools. Which begs the question, did the priests of Karnak work alone, or were they on the receiving end of a cosmic construction contract? Were the gods Amun, Mut, and Khonsu deities, or visitors from beyond the stars offering a little tech support? What do you think? 40,000-year-old tech. I have a new groundbreaking study for you. Somewhere around 40,000 years ago, the ancestors of today's Filipinos were out at sea catching tuna and building boats like it was just another Tuesday. While everyone else in the world was shivering in caves, people in the Philippines were deep-sea fishing and boat making like seasoned mariners. So here's the million-dollar question. How in Poseidon's name did they do it? Rixar Fuentes and Alfred Pollock are researchers from Ateneo de Manila University. They've been digging deep into this mystery. Their study, which rocked the pages of the Journal of Archaeological Science reports in April this year, is groundbreaking. In a nutshell, it says that Southeast Asians were way ahead of the curve. Let me explain why. Most of island Southeast Asia, the parts of Southeast Asia that are islands, was never connected to mainland Asia by land bridges. In prehistoric times, there was no shortcut across the ice like there was in North America when people migrated from Siberia to Alaska. If you wanted to island hop back then, you had two options: either teleport or take a boat. And since there's no record of ancient teleportation yet, it's safe to say they used boats. The amazing part is that they were doing it 40,000 years ago, at a time when mammoths were alive and there were still Neanderthals trying not to go extinct. Of course, scientists haven't found the physical boats. Organic materials like wood don't tend to survive for tens of thousands of years. What does survive are the tools. Scientists found stone tools with tiny plant fibers on them, proving that people in the Philippines were processing plants into ropes, nets, and other essentials for boat building and fishing. People in what is now Mindoro and Timor-Leste used handmade tools to shred plants into cordage strong enough to hold together seaworthy boats. They were also reeling in big fish like tuna and sharks. This was organized, skill-based, open ocean fishing. But again, I have to emphasize that it was happening 40,000 years ago. No one alive today imagined this level of sophisticated fishing and boat building in actual prehistory. It's completely changing how anthropologists view our own history. Is there more to the story? How far did they sail? Did people travel from the Philippines to Europe, other parts of Asia, Australia, dare I say, the Americas? How to make a mummy 101. You know what would be fun? Combining the last two topics into one epic topic. Let's mash up ancient Egypt and Southeast Asia into one jaw-dropping class on how to make a mummy. The Egyptians may have been expert embalmers, but they didn't make their own mummy juice. They imported it from Southeast Asia. Buried deep beneath the desert sands of Saqqara, not far from the dusty toe of the Pyramid of Unas, archaeologists cracked open what might as well have been the ancient world's version of a high-end skincare lab. But instead of serums and jade rollers, it held jars of goo. Goo meant to keep your grandma's body fresh for eternity. The ancient Egyptians were whipping up sophisticated embalming cocktails that modern-day morticians are jealous of, and some of their ingredients came from thousands of miles away. In 2016, a multi-room embalming workshop was discovered under Saqqara, and inside it were over 100 ceramic vessels still crusted with remnants of 2,500-year-old preservation potions. Some of the jars even had handwritten notes etched onto them like ancient post-its, saying things like, "Use on head only." I guess embalming was a lot more complex than people think. Just kidding, we knew it was hard. Researchers analyzed 31 of the jars found in the workshop. They date to between 664 and 525 BC, which was during Egypt's 26th dynasty. What the researchers found was a chemical treasure map. They identified animal fats, beeswax, pistachio resin, bitumen, and a botanical buffet of cedar, juniper, and cypress oils. If you're picturing a mummy marinating in artisanal beard balm, you're not far off. Dr. Philip Stockhammer, one of the lead researchers, couldn't hide his awe. And I don't blame him, because this is impressive. These ancient Egyptian embalmers didn't just know how to delay decay, they had a working chemistry toolkit. As Stockhammer put it, they were using antibacterial and antifungal agents without knowing what bacteria even were. That's like inventing soap without knowing what germs are. And it wasn't just about full body preservation. Egyptians had a whole beauty routine for the dead. The head, for instance, got VIP treatment with castor oil and pistachio resin, giving your face an exclusive post-death spa day. But the real jaw-dropper is where some of the ingredients came from. Embalmers were importing substances from across the globe. In fact, Stockhammer told Reuters that Egypt's mummy industry helped kickstart globalization. You thought silk and spices were the start of world trade, but that's not it. Not tea either. Mummy bombs started international trading relations, and it began with Egypt and Southeast Asia. Would you trust a 2,500-year-old embalming recipe to keep you fresh for the afterlife? Or are you more of a cremation and chill kind of person? Drop your eternal self-care plans in the comments. Mexico's ancient power plant. Beneath the sun-scorched plains of central Mexico, in a forgotten tunnel sealed off for over 1,800 years, archaeologists stumbled upon something out of a deleted scene from Stargate. It involved mercury, it involved mica, it involved one extremely mysterious pyramid, and depending on who you ask, it might have also involved aliens. Welcome to Teotihuacan, the ancient city once known as the place where gods were born. It's home to the Temple of Quetzalcoatl, aka the Feathered Serpent Pyramid. Built somewhere between 100 and 200 AD, this stone colossus has long sat in the shadow of more famous structures like Egypt's pyramids. But in 2015, things got weird. Tinfoil hat meets ancient ritual chamber weird. It all started when a sinkhole opened up at the pyramid's base, revealing the entrance to an unexpected 338-foot-long tunnel. Sergio Gomez, a Mexican archaeologist, led the excavation as part of the Tlalocan project. What he found inside would leave even skeptics rubbing their temples. At the tunnel's end lay a sealed-off chamber glistening with liquid mercury. That same toxic, silvery stuff your high school science teacher said never to touch. The thing with mercury is that it doesn't just ooze out of the ground in liquid form. The ancient Teotihuacanos would have had to mine cinnabar, aka mercury sulfide, heat it, extract the vapor, condense it, and then somehow transport it to the pyramid without dying. Why? No one knows. Gomez believes the shimmering mercury was a symbolic river, a mirror-like surface representing a portal to the underworld. It may have been stockpiled in the pyramid as a way to create what was essentially a gigantic portal to hell. Spooky, huh? But hold on to your socks. Let's take a hard left into sci-fi thriller territory. Alongside the mercury, Gomez's team also uncovered large sheets of mica, a glittering mineral with powerful insulating properties. Mica is heat-resistant, electricity insulating, and used today in electronics, spacecraft, and toasters. And there is no mica in Mexico. The nearest known source is in Brazil. That's 4,600 miles away. Just like with the Egyptians and their mummy juice, the Teotihuacanos were importing goods from far, far away. The presence of both mica and mercury in the same subterranean space has ignited a wildfire of theories. Let's start with the ritual theory, which is backed by most archaeologists. The theory claims that the tunnel was a ceremonial site, and these exotic materials were meant to honor a powerful ruler's journey into the afterlife. No burial chamber has been found, but maybe the guy was dumped into the mercury or something. Who knows? The next most popular theory is why we're here today. Some believe the mercury and mica formed part of an energy system, possibly electromagnetic, potentially capable of generating power. It's a theory similar to the one gaining steam around the Great Pyramid of Giza, where researchers have studied how its inner chambers amplify energy. Could all of these ancient megaliths, temples, pyramids, labyrinths, could they all have been for gathering natural energy? It's possible. Mercury flows and mica insulates. Together, in an enclosed system beneath a massive pyramid, they could have energized a capacitor that turned the tunnel into a storage tank for energy. What happens next with the energy is anyone's guess. Was it redirected upwards? Across dimensions? Into the fuel tank of an alien ship? If this was a power plant, it would have been built 1700 years before Edison ever dreamt of lighting a bulb. But you should know that no wires, no batteries, and no actual devices have been found. Just two very strange materials sitting underground in one of the most enigmatic sites in the world. If the tunnel was some kind of battery, it was unlike anything our modern technology can create. Bone tools. In a dusty gully carved into the heart of Tanzania's Olduvai Gorge, in the center of the cradle of humankind, archaeologists made a find so old, it practically rewrites our origin story. It wasn't a fossil, a fire pit, or even a skull. It was something more subtle, but still mind-blowing. Researchers uncovered bone tools that are 1.5 million years old. Let me say that again. These are the oldest bone tools ever discovered anywhere on the whole planet. They were intentionally shaped instruments, carved from the dense bones of elephants and hippos by our distant hominin ancestors. Before this, the oldest known bone tools were a youthful 250,000 years old. This discovery pushes systematic bone tool making back more than 1 million years, and it's turning the timeline of human innovation on its head. Found at the T69 complex in the Frida Leakey Karongo West Gully, not exactly your average tourist spot, researchers analyzed 27 fragments, some as long as 15 inches, all crafted from limb bones. And you know the deal with limb bones, right? No, because you're not a boneologist. Limb bones are the densest, sturdiest parts of a skeleton. It's pretty amazing that hominins recognized which bones were best for crafting tools over 1 million years ago. Maybe our extremely ancient relatives weren't so primitive after all. So who were these prehistoric MacGyvers? It's a question easier asked than answered. Scientists can't say for sure, but they do have two likely suspects. Around 1.5 million years ago, there were two upright walking hominins lurking in the Olduvai region. You had Homo erectus, our famous sure-footed friend with a reputation for ambition and endurance. And you had Paranthropus boisei, a burly vegetarian with jaw muscles that could probably crush a coconut. That's one possible evolutionary path we could have gone on. Had Paranthropus boisei had its way, we'd all have crocodile jaws right now. Scientists don't know which species made the tools, but one thing is clear. They were thinking, planning, and crafting in ways that scholars didn't think were possible yet. Dr. Ignacio de la Torre, lead author of the study and researcher at the Spanish National Research Council, had this to say. This shows our ancestors weren't just using tools, they were adapting techniques across materials. These early humans were exploring options and getting creative, which was a massive cognitive leap and possibly the first step towards civilized society. Up until now, archaeologists believe that the deliberate crafting of bone tools was a late invention by humans, something that emerged around 200,000 years ago. But these new tools predate all other stone tools, and even Homo sapiens, by over 1 million years. The oldest eyeliner ever. This one's for everyone who knows absolutely nothing about a loved one's makeup collection. Would it surprise you to know that women have been applying eyeliner for at least 8,200 years? Beneath layers of ancient earth in western Turkey, where the whispers of prehistoric fire still echo and the air once smelled faintly of cooked goat, archaeologists unearthed a cosmetic bombshell. It's the world's oldest eyeliner. It's not just a dusty relic, mind you, but an actual coal stick with its black tip still intact, as if someone got distracted mid-cat eye 8,200 years ago and never came back. The ancient eyeliner was recovered from the ruins of Yesilova Huyuk, a Neolithic settlement near modern-day Izmir. It was here that Dr. Zafer Derin and his team struck eyeliner gold. Let's talk about this beauty tool. It's a couple inches of finely smoothed stone shaped into a sharp point. Picture a prehistoric Sephora enthusiast, probably with killer brows and a knack for symmetrical eyeliner, delicately dipping this bad boy into a pot of coal and getting ready to turn heads at the village fire pit. Coal, by the way, is a cosmetic product typically made by crushing lead, although modern coal is made from lead sulfide, so it's not like women everywhere are rubbing actual lead on their eyes. On the end of this makeup applicator, archaeologists identified traces of what might be manganese oxide, another early ingredient in coal. Everything points to this being a real eyeliner pencil. But what in the world did humans need this for 8,000 years ago? Was it for women? For men? Did everyone darken their eyes or make their eyebrows into wild accusing arches? Actually, everybody used it. According to Dr. Darren, the lead archaeologist on the project, kohl wasn't purely a beauty statement. It pulled double duty as medicine. Ancient Egyptians, Syrians, Iranians, and Anatolians used it to protect their eyes from sun glare and, get this, to treat eye diseases. They were so clever that they turned their eyeliner into eye care. Who needs eye drops when your smoky eye cures conjunctivitis and protects you from the sun? Oh, and here's a fun linguistic twist for your next trivia night. The Arabic word al-kul, which gave us kohl, also birthed the English word alcohol. So next time someone says your eyeliner is too strong, just tell them it's historically intoxicating. The site of Yesilova Huyuk isn't just about eye makeup. This place was a bustling prehistoric hotspot from 6,500 to 4,000 BC, complete with reed huts, fire pits, and workshops. Think of it as the Silicon Valley of the Stone Age, but with less Wi-Fi and more rocks. Sadly, around 5,700 BC, the city met its fiery end in a catastrophic blaze, leaving behind only charred remains and the best smudged eyeliner in history. No one knows if the city was burned by raiders on purpose or by someone's botched breakfast, but it definitely burned all the way down. What would you say the moral of the story is here? I think the takeaway is that people then, just like now, cared about how they looked, and they wanted to protect their eyes. So maybe it was to impress a crush, scare off evil spirits, or just feel good. Either way, they had the tech to turn heads. Thanks for watching, and big thank you again to Fume for sponsoring today's video. Be sure to click on the link in the description box for more information and subscribe for more. See you tomorrow.